Welcome to our next segment of Intro to Google Slides by Mr. Bob Larimer. Let's go on and continue things that were not covered in Death by PowerPoint. Bullet points versus talking points. In this class, bullet points are things that you're going to list on your screen, on your presentation, on your slideshow. Those are things that you're going to expand upon as part of your lesson. Okay? This would be another example of a bullet point. It has a dot beside it. If you remember back in our Google Docs module, we learned how to put bullet points beside text to make a bulleted list. We also learned how to do a numbered list, and we learned how to do a checklist. But in presentations, sometimes people use bullet points. I don't, but that's just a personal preference. One of the reasons I don't is because it gives me a little more room if I take that dot out. So I can fit a little more text on the row, on the line, or I can make my font a little larger. Remember in the previous section when we covered the things that Dr. Phillips talked about in Death by PowerPoint, we talked about making the main point or the bullet point, not the title of the slide, the largest font on the screen. Well, by making it the largest font on the screen, you make it more likely that the people in the back of your audience can see it. And that's one of the goals. They need to be able to see everything without straining. So sometimes being able to make your font larger and still fit it all on one or two rows is more important than having the dot to the side of it. So talking points. In this class, talking points are points that do not go on the screen. They're things that you say as part of your lesson. So, for example, all the things I used to describe bullet points were not on the screen. You didn't see me write them on the screen, but I'm saying them. I could have had them written down on a piece of paper, and I could be reading from a piece of paper. I could be using speaker notes, which we'll cover later as part of Google Slides. But in this case, they're just mental notes that I had that I wanted to say about bullet points, just like what I'm saying now about talking points. I'm not writing it on the screen. I'm just saying these words to further illustrate the concept of talking points. Making your content fit. So if your bullet points look like this and don't give you enough room, you'll notice that these barely fit on the screen, then you may have to make some changes. And one of the things that you might change would be to look at line spacing. So if you're editing your slide and you click on the line spacing icon on your toolbar, if you can't see it on your main toolbar, you may have to click the three dots at the right edge of the main toolbar and see a secondary toolbar and then click on line spacing. In this case, line spacing was set to double spaced, and so this is not actually an empty row. It's a blank space that the computer is leaving between every row. So you would need to change it to single space, and then it would look like this. Another option would be to get rid of all this blank space out here. Look at your ruler bar and see where your margin is set and see where your indent is set. And if you grab, I believe it's the downward arrow that shows the indent. Once you've selected all your text, make sure you've selected all your text first, grab that downward arrow and drag it and drop it farther left on the ruler. It'll move all this text over like that. See where I drug it over here? And now my margin is over here, but my indent for the bullet points is here. So if I'm using bullet points on each one of these and having an actual symbol out here, then the start of the text is going to be here. Another option would be to just get rid of the bullet points if you don't need that. And I did that by unselecting bullet point. All right. Direct any questions you have about this to your teacher.